Jack Johnson, representing Williamson County, Tennessee. Senator, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm great, Mike. Thanks for having me on. Good morning.
Well, good to finally meet you. Good to be a resident of your fine district.
We're very happy to have you in Tennessee, by the way. Thank you.
It's we're going to the Christmas tree lighting today in Franklin. It's going to be 20 degrees. Are you going to be there?
I may be. I'm on my way to Knoxville. I've got a press event over there, and if I make it back in time, I'll be there. It will
Hurry
be
back.
cold,
Hurry back.
But it's going to be massive. The crowds are huge for that.
Yeah, it'll be great. So we've been talking a lot ever since Monday. We've been talking a lot over a long period, but specifically about the Supreme Court case that happened on Wednesday. But I want to talk to you about exactly what SB 1 really says. So let's go back to the very beginning. We played the clip of the person at Vanderbilt saying that transgender surgeries on kids is a huge moneymaker. What was the genesis for you of this issue being a real issue in Tennessee?
Well, we were mortified to find out, Mike, in late 2022, thanks to some great reporting by Daily Wire, Matt Walsh and his team. They reported that, in fact, there's this prominent medical facility right here in Middle Tennessee that, in fact, had a dedicated clinic dedicated to performing pediatric transgender surgeries on kids, hence the reason it's pediatric, and also prescribing these very, very harmful drugs that can delay the development of a child's body and certainly have long-lasting medical complications. So naturally, people in Tennessee from one end of the state to the other were mortified. So the House Majority Leader, I serve as the Senate Majority Leader, he and I got together, said we have to stop this. We began working with our Attorney General, crafted a bill. We knew that some other states had tried to do this, and they had not withstood judicial scrutiny. And so we got with our AG and our legal team, crafted a bill that we thought was very sound, accomplished the policy goal, but would also withstand judicial scrutiny. And it has thus far, and now it's been before the biggest court in the nation, the highest court in the nation, the United States Supreme Court.
So good. Okay, I want to get to the judicial scrutiny part in a second, but what did your bill accomplish?
So what we did is we banned both surgeries. What the bill says is that a medical provider is prohibited from performing gender modification surgery, on genital modification surgery on a minor for purposes of gender dysphoria or treating gender dysphoria. And we also banned the use of cross-sex hormones, puberty blockers for such purpose. We're very clear to say that these drugs are often used for other medical issues that occur in kids, but we did ban them for purposes of treating gender dysphoria.
Okay. Let's talk about judicial scrutiny now. So I was listening to the arguments yesterday or Wednesday, and one of the lawyers, I think it's the ACLU lawyer, said, hey, what they did in West Virginia, we approve of. They were going to ban it. They were going to be radical bigots like you in Tennessee, but instead they said, all right, well, listen, if a kid gets trans surgery, it needs to be signed off by 2 doctors, and then it will be allowed. So they put proper checks in, but they didn't go as far as you went. Why did you guys go so far, Senator?
Well, because we very fundamentally very much believe that these surgeries and the use of these drugs are harmful, and at best, the science is unsettled and undetermined because these treatments have not been around for a long time. But I'm not a medical doctor, Mike, but I conferred with numerous, we all did in the Tennessee General Assembly. We had testimony from many medical providers who told you, and let me be clear, the surgeries are not at issue in the case. They didn't even challenge that we had the right to ban these surgeries where you cut off a girl's breast or modify genitals. What's at issue is the use of the drugs. So while I think it's all very, very important, they're only challenging us on the use of these cross-sex hormones and puberty blockers. And as you listen to the testimony before the United States Supreme Court, you can kind of flesh that out where they're trying to talk about it. So for the plaintiffs to suggest that we should do what West Virginia did, well, that's the whole basis of the case. What we're saying, Mike, is that states, via the 10th Amendment and federalism and state sovereignty, should have the right to regulate these types of medical procedures. And that's not inconsistent with what we do already in a myriad of ways. We have all kinds of laws on the books relative to medical practice, and those decisions should be made at the state level. I'm a state legislator. I don't need some attorney in Washington or the Supreme Court or any other court telling us how we should best take care of kids right here in Tennessee. So if West Virginia wants to allow it, but with a You got to jump through more hoops. Fine, good on them. But in Tennessee, we want to protect kids, period.
Yeah, that should be done in proper red states. But, Senator, you're banning a girl from getting testosterone. You don't ban the boy from getting testosterone, but you get banning a girl, which violates the 14th Amendment.
Yeah, well, I say that's nonsense. And I thought that Chief Justice Roberts and some of the more conservative-leaning justices really did a good job of going down that path. I disagree with that. One of the arguments that our Solicitor General here in Tennessee, Matt Rice, made that I thought was brilliant, that I hadn't heard before, but I thought it was such a good analogy. He said, you can give morphine to someone who is in really, really severe pain. That's a far different thing than giving morphine to someone to commit suicide. And if you're trying to tell me, even as a layperson, and I've got plenty of medical professional friends who will back me up on this, that giving testosterone to a boy because he has a medical condition that is delaying normal development, normal adolescence and puberty. Okay, that's one scenario. That's the same thing as giving testosterone to a girl so that she can grow hair and have higher bone density and develop more muscle. I just don't buy it. I just don't buy that there's an equal protection clause claim here.
Now, I'm reading your bill, and you were bold in your bill. You went, I don't know, let me read a little bit. The legislature finds that the healthcare providers in this state have posted pictures of naked minors online to advertise such surgeries. The legislature finds that Planned Parenthood of Tennessee and North Mississippi, an organization responsible for killing tens of thousands of unborn children, has become one of the largest administrators in the state of such medical procedures. And you go on like that. Why put stuff like that in the bill? Doesn't that make it a little too inflammatory, Senator?
I don't believe it does if you're stating something that is factual. We believe in the truth here in Tennessee, and you shouldn't sugarcoat the truth. And if you agree with me and my colleagues in the General Assembly that we have a compelling interest to protect children, we have a compelling interest. We don't let a child get a tattoo before they're 18. We certainly don't let them drink or smoke or join the military or vote. But yet we would let a 14 or a 15-year-old girl make a decision that her breast should be removed when there's a very good possibility that she will grow out of her gender dysphoria if she's experiencing it. And I recognize that can be a serious condition for a child. But then she wakes up, she's 24, 25 years old, and she decides she does love her body. She likes the body that God gave her. She wants to be a woman, yet she's been robbed of the ability to breastfeed her children. Now, that may sound salacious, but it is factual, and I challenge anyone to tell me that anything I just said is untrue.
Was there anything else that stood out in the hours of oral arguments on Wednesday to you?
Well, it was just such an incredible honor to be there, to get to. I've never been in the Supreme Court chamber before, and for it to be my first time, and they're there talking about a bill that I sponsored along with House Majority Leader William Lamberth. It was a Forrest Gump moment. I don't know how else to put it. It was an amazing experience, and it's just I'm so honored and I'm so proud of Tennessee. We lead the nation in so many ways, and here we are yet again as the test case for the nation to affirm the rights of states to protect children as they see fit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my last question, and this was, as we were talking about you, and we talked about this issue all week, and I can see some people maybe like rolling their eyes about it, like, oh, geez, more of this, or what's the big deal, or why are you spending so much time on it, whatever. And I was like, well, listen, if nothing else, this is a story of legislating with boldness on at a time, you did this a couple years ago, when it was like peak woke hysteria on this issue. Maybe now, post-election, post-Trump, right, it seems a little more easy to make this decision. But there were like dozens of states that were going the exact opposite direction as our state.
That's right.
So what is this? What is the lesson you want to teach about boldness through this story?
Well, I think it's so incredibly important. It's imperative that states lead. And not to get off on a tangent, but I think you agree with me. You believe in federalism. The federal government should be very limited in size and scope, and everything else should be left up to the states. And this is a great example of a state like Tennessee. And by the way, there have been others too. We're not the only one. We just happen to be the first state to pass a bill that's been successfully defended in a court of law. And a big thanks and a big hat tip to our amazing Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti for helping us get to where we are right now. And let's hope the Supreme Court affirms it. But it comes down to states recognizing an issue and as reflected by the will of their people, The people of Tennessee were mortified that this was taking place. The overwhelming majority, Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. There are some people who think you should be able to do this to a kid, but they're very small in number in the state of Tennessee. So the Tennessee General Assembly stood up, led, listened to their constituents, and took action, took bold, decisive action. And I'm very grateful that you recognize, because I do think it was a bold decision for us to step forward and say, we're going to stop this, and we're going to do it in a way that some liberal activist judge is not able to overturn. And I believe that's what we did.
And I'll let you go. Last thing, but like, that's true, but you still could have said, this is way too hot. We're not going to get involved. We're going to wait. And then also you have to consider that you get some powerful interest involved. I mean, it's Vanderbilt that was doing this, right? So there's a lot of money and influence that comes from Vandy. So you guys still had to step up and do what's right in spite of all that. What do you say there?
Well, I say thank you for recognizing that and acknowledging it. And I can tell you that in the Tennessee General Assembly, State House, State Senate, we have conservative Republican supermajorities, and we're not afraid to use them. And that's what we did in this particular instance. And yes, it was hot. Yes, there were death threats and protests and being called every name in the book. But when you fundamentally believe what you're doing is right, then you wear the armor of God. I'm a believer, and I know that thousands of people are praying for this issue and praying for members of the General Assembly that are taking this on. And I think that equips you. It clothes you with the armor of God, and you move forward and you do what's right, and the rest of it will take care of itself.